Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Kemler, and our next guest, in my opinion, is a national treasure. After starring in the classic series Miami Vice, Don Johnson has starred in countless movies and TV shows, including Nash Bridges, Eastbound and Down, Cold in July, Django Unchained, Brawl in Cell Block 99, Dragged Across Cronquete, and now you can see him in Rian Johnson's brilliant new whodunit comedy, Knives Out. Let's take a look. Everybody put your hands together for the great Don Johnson, sir. Thank you so much for being here. It's good to have you.
For having me.
Congratulations on Knives Out.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Congrats on this movie. It's perfect.
Now, how often do you hear that? A perfect movie.
Well, it says what it's going to do, and it sets out to do something, and it does exactly that without missing any beats it could possibly miss, which is the hardest thing you can do when you set out to make a movie.
It's true, and I don't know why. I can't really explain this, but we didn't rehearse. We didn't have a table read. We just, in fact, the only person cast when I took the role was Daniel Craig, and I just loved the material. I said, "Oh, okay, well, this is really good." Screenwriting and storytelling and
incredibly clever. Like I'd imagine it pops off the page.
Well, it does, and it's also funnier than you would expect. And then we elevated it to even funnier when we got our hands on it. So we all just showed up. First day, me, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Ana de Armas, and we start the opening scene of the movie and kind of set the tone for how we were going to do it, and it felt right. And then we started adding the other characters and pieces, and everybody sort of got they got it. They got the tone, and then we just clicked. We made this film in 35 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did it? You know, the way that I imagine it, and I could be wrong, is that as much as most films are blocked off, and this actor comes on for this many days, most of you are on set together at the same time in the background of a frame or in a, you're basically there. Was it kind of like a bullpen and you guys were all waiting your turn to get out there, or were you?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Actually, it was kind of like summer stock because we all had these giant trailers that we would show up to in the morning, get dressed, and get hair and makeup and stuff, and then we would go up to the house where we were shooting, and wouldn't see the trailer until the end of the day. Well, because we fashioned a green room kind of down in the basement of this house, and it was literally about the size of this stage, and we had all these director's chairs around, and the whole cast would gather down there and just start telling war stories, about films that we've done. I'd ask Daniel about, Bond and some of the other things that I've loved him in. And Christopher Plummer and I had known each other for a long time because we held down a couple of bar stools in San Francisco one night. And so we were just telling war stories, and it was a blast because you just don't get that kind of environment and that kind of cast together with some really good war stories.
Wow, I bet someone like Ana de Armas was fairly jealous because she's in most of the frames of the movie, was upstairs shooting, and you guys were downstairs telling war stories.
Exactly right. Exactly right. But she is so good.
Yeah.
In this movie. I think she's going to be a big star.
Star-making performance.
Yeah,
for sure.
For real.
You said that, you got there and it was you and Jamie Lee and Anna at first, and you set the tone by shooting this first scene. Did you know what that tone was going to be, or was it like you got there, talked to Rian, and figured it out?
Well, I had a sense of it because when you see the movie, you'll see it, you'll get it. It's just the humor is grounded in reality, but it's slightly larger than life.
Right.
Like Hitchcock movies and I'm drawing a blank on the great whodunit writer of all day,
Agatha Christie, yeah.
And this film actually is a whodunit bookends on a Hitchcockian kind of suspense thriller mystery stuck in the middle. And it's really clever the way.
A lot of comedy in there as well.
Yeah, with some laughs here and there. Yeah.
Which you, had you done? I know Nash Bridges had like a sort of comedic tone, but you didn't really come up mostly doing comedy. I feel like I've noticed you doing comedy with things like, Eastbound and Down in the last like 10 or so years, which you were so great in that show.
That's one of my favorite roles in Eastbound and Down.
It looks like you were having fun doing
Yeah,
that
those
role.
guys are fun to play with, you know, and they all come out of they have a writing posse there, you know, and so yeah, you know, comedy is you know, about timing and about tone, and it's and working in an ensemble group is kind of like being part of the orchestra. You know, sometimes you're the strings and you're just laying a little pad underneath, and other times you're playing the lead and you're the loud trumpet, and other times you're keeping the beat with the percussion section and stuff like that.
When you're doing something like this and you have a scene where you can either play it for laughs or you have to play for suspense, or essentially like you have to play it for a plot point that has to lead to something later, how do you decipher that tone within that scene? Because there are moments where you have to do one or the other, or you have to do both at the same time in this movie.
That's the magic right there. You know, I think the best way to kind of describe it is that there is a musicality in Rian Johnson's writing, and when I read the script, I kind of, as an actor, I kind of hear that music, and then I go through all my personal preparations, and I do a lot of ritual work and dream work and all kinds of things.
Really?
Yeah, to layer in the characteristics of the character and his specific secrets, so that when you're watching it, you feel it. You may not be able to put your finger on it and say, "Oh, that's that," or "That's that," but you feel the depth of the character.
You feel his weakness in this. He's a weak man.
Yeah, and that was interesting for me to play, because I'm generally playing these
true. Strong guys, yeah.
You know, testosterone driven, you know, boneheads that, you know, would rather get in a fight and then do something else. And
not that he's physically weak, he's spiritually weak. He's taken care of
he's
by
a kept
this family.
man. I mean,
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
face it, he's a kept man. That's what I would love. I don't have the talent to do it, but it would be great to
be a kept man.
Yes, yeah. So he's sort of the personification of the whole family, the entitlement of the family, and Ana de Armas plays the more heart and nurture part of the human characteristics.
You mentioned your rituals and your dream work. Do you mind expanding on that a little bit? I mean, that sometimes that can be a very
it's kind
personal
of
process.
esoteric, and you know, I mean, it's weird. You know, people.
I like that.
Yeah, people go, "Oh God, what do you mean?" But being an actor is kind of like being a detective, and the script is your case. And you start going through it, and there are things that inform the character and that inform the nature of the character throughout the script that aren't necessarily in the dialogue. They could be in the script description. They could be in the nature of the story. I'll take whatever that is, even if it's numbers, and I will create an art object out of those things. It won't mean anything to anybody. It's certainly not something that I'm going to exhibit. It only means something to me and that character. And then I will do physical and emotional images with that particular piece, so that it layers it deeper into my subconscious. And since the subconscious can't lie, it's incapable of lying, when I present it, it's the truth.
Have you always done that?
No, not always. I started learning to do it. I had a sort of the innate ability to do what I do, but when I started to learn how to do it was years and years ago, post Miami Vice. Actually, I was after doing a character in a long-running series, there comes a time where you have to renew somehow. Absolutely. So I came to New York, and I went to class with all the other actors and actresses who were struggling, and waiters and waitresses, and I went to class and I took off Sonny Crockett and I took off Don Johnson, and I went in and I did the work, and I was really asking a question: do I still love this enough to commit my life to it?
Because there's a sense when you're shooting a TV show, like for a number of years, you can kind of hit your beats. There's acting involved, but there is a machine that's at work, right? And you can lose touch a little bit with process, I would imagine.
You can, because it is kind of a machine and it's a format, and it's, a lot of actors get stuck.
Yeah.
And they get stuck in that character, and the audience doesn't help any by being so in love with that character that they keep, they want that character to live on. Well, for you as an actor, you can't really go on if you're only going to play that character, and we're not making it anymore.
Yeah.
So I spent time during Miami Vice doing films that were completely counterintuitive to Sonny Crockett and Miami Vice, and I was successful in separating Sonny Crockett and Don Johnson. And then once I separated Sonny Crockett and Don Johnson, I was able to take Don Johnson in different directions and different challenges. And fortunately for me, my fans hung out with me and stayed with me, and into Nash Bridges, which is a completely different character.
Yeah.
And
wasn't Nash Bridges like co-created with Hunter S. Thompson, or
that's correct.
Yeah, that's right. That's
God
like
rest
the
his soul.
greatest thing ever that he co-created. That show.
Yeah. Hunter was my neighbor in Aspen. I was just out of mortar range.
Have you felt like that you have had? I mean, to have a going on, is it going on like a 40-year career, 50-year career?
50 years.
To have a 50-year successful acting career, do you feel like you've had to consistently separate Don Johnson from the characters? I feel like there's been periods where it's like, oh my God, Don Johnson is sort of doing all these different movies that I haven't seen Don Johnson do before, starting with something like Cold in July and moving into Django, and then the stuff with Zoller, and now Knives Out. It feels like a different period for you.
Yeah, it's I think it's like with any kind of art or artist, renewal is part of the process. And I've been so fortunate in that I've had the opportunity to do like a long-running play in a television series, playing the same character every night, in 2 long-running television series. And I've also had the opportunity to play a variety of different characters. But each time, it's as exciting for me as it is, when I get to be part of something like Knives Out. I mean, actors live to be in a ensemble cast like this and make a movie that you can take your mom and your grandma and all your kids to see, and everybody's going to have a great time.
Yeah, that is true. It's a movie for everybody that everyone's going to love.
I know, and you hear that shit, and it's not true usually, but this is actually true.
No, I was sitting there watching the movie thinking, who's not going to like this movie? There's nothing to not like about this movie.
How about it? Let's hear it.
I want to go back to one thing that you were talking about, because I'm fascinated what happens when a famous actor goes to an acting class with waiters and everybody else, like how they responded to you and what it felt like.
Well, it's kind of funny because there's the obvious kind of, what the hell is Don Johnson doing in here? I thought he was working. Is there a problem?
Did you ever notice any sort of like competition with you where they're like, all right, Don Johnson, let's see you do some Shepherd for us or something?
Funny enough, acting class is you're not competing. You're challenging each other to do your best work. The best work is the work where you are in the moment, and you've been able to suspend everybody's reality for that period of time, so that you've taken them out of their reality and into a different reality. And to do that successfully, you yourself have to train yourself to learn how to. it's esoteric and kind of crazy to talk about, but you kind of hook into the wheel, and you're lifted into this perfectly in the moment flow. Yeah.
So you're looking for that.
That doesn't always happen. That's what you're looking for.
But that's what you don't get often on a TV show that is shooting, 30-second takes, doing
Page count.
Yeah, page count. Turning it around, that kind of thing.
But there's also something interesting about television and doing it that way, because you don't have a lot of time to dwell on it and to fuss over it and to to kind of get mired into intellectualizing too much. You got to bring it now.
Right. As soon as the guest actor shows up and starts asking what my character's motivation is,
the
producer's like, they're not coming back, guys.
Yeah. Let me tell you, you either get lunch or you don't.
Right.
That can be some pretty good.
We're
motivation.
killing him off in the next episode. We're not dealing with this. When you get the call from someone like Rian Johnson to do this, what is your first thought? I mean, he's just off of one of the most successful franchises in the history of movies. Do you get nervous at all anymore?
Well, I mean, I would be not telling the truth if I didn't tell you I was absolutely thrilled when this script landed in my lap, and I was supposed to speak with him the next day, and I was so excited about it. I was thinking to myself, okay, how do I not fuck this up? How do I? Oops, sorry, pardon. How do I not do this? And we got on the phone. The first thing he said to me was that I saw a movie you made. How old were you when you made Zachariah? And I said 20. And he said, yeah, I saw that movie, and yeah, it must have been one of your first movies because you looked like you were 12, and blah, blah, blah. And we started talking about different kinds of movies and different movies that I had made and different things that he had done. I'd seen his Looper and Brick, and we started talking about everything but this movie and my character. And by the end of the call, he goes, okay, well, I'll see you in Boston. Wow. I went, well, that went well.
Well, isn't that make sense? I mean, you've been doing this, as we said, for 50 years. He's reached out to you because he sees something in you that can do the part, and he also knows that you can do the job because you've been doing the job for 50 years. He wants to know that you're going to be fun on set for 35, 40 days.
Oh, yeah, or that I'm not completely bonkers, batshit crazy.
Right. Yeah. You're not like, hey, so can we talk about
By the way, there's a few of them running around, where that phone call is an important phone call where you call up and go, hello, are you crazy?
Right, you don't call and they go, look, pages 35 to 40. I think we can write something different here for my character.
We need to redo the whole second act. Then you know you got a problem.
Right. Page 1 rewrite, please. Then I'll jump on your movie. A lot of your scenes were everybody in the cast, but with Jamie Lee primarily, who plays your wife. What was it like working with her?
I've known Jamie Lee for 35, 40 years. She and Melanie were best pals, and she was playing my wife, so she started bossing me around immediately, and I dutifully did what she told me. So.
And Daniel Craig is doing a pretty phenomenal Southern drawl. What did you think when you?
It is dripping with honey.
Yeah. What did you think when you first heard that on set?
Well, I've told this story, so I'm not betraying any confidence here. When I had the first scene up where we were an ensemble and I was talking about Trump, and by the end of the scene, I realized how big I was being. It was bigger. It was kind of scary. I turned around to Ryan and I went, I'm way out here on this plank. Is that all right? And he's going, yeah, that's perfect. All right, we're moving on. I'm going, okay. Then about 2 days later, Daniel does his big scene where he comes in and confronts the family at the end and says, you all are vultures, knives out and all that. And he's huge. And I went, I'm good.
Right.
I'm good. If he can do that, then I may have to go back and redo my shit and jack it up.
Like Ryan walked by, he's like, you feeling good now? Everything all right?
Yeah,
See what we're after here?
But he was so good in it, I said, oh man, we got a chance here.
Yeah. We mentioned Eastbound and Down, which for my money is, I think, one of the great TV shows of all time. I rewatched it recently, and the last shot with the baseball and everything, I almost cried. I thought it was so good. They just tied it together so well. How did that come about? Did those guys reach out to you, and had you been watching the show at all?
You know what? I hadn't seen the show. I was coming to it just kind of fresh, and my agents called me up and said, "Hey, these guys are they're pretty creative." And I knew some of the guys in there, Will Ferrell and Adam McKay and those guys, and who've gone on to fashion some pretty nice careers for themselves too. And so I read it, and then I watched the show, and I said, "Okay, this could be fun." And when I got together with them, we just clicked. And
got it.
Yeah, I got it. And when I got the script and it said read the part of Eduardo Sanchez, I'm going, okay, yeah. Well, somebody's got a sense of humor. Eduardo Sanchez. Okay.
And then you had those great scenes with Lily Taylor. Or Lily Tomlin, excuse
Lily
me.
Tomlin, that's right.
Lily Tomlin.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, she was amazing in it. She was fantastic. She played my wife in it, and Danny's mother.
Right. Like a bowling, who's now a lesbian bowling champion.
A lesbian bowling champion, yeah.
We have some time for audience questions. Who has a question? Right here.
Hi. I just wanted to say I've been a fan of yours since Return to Macon County with Nick Nolte.
Oh my God, man!
I was 12.
I was 24. We were both kids.
Yeah, we were kids then. Being in the business for 50 years, you still seem excited about it. Is there something that you want to do that you haven't done? Anything at all?
I'm not one of those actors that walks around carrying, like King Lear, under his arm, saying, "Could we just do King Lear?" But I'm sure that if somebody said, "Hey, do you want to do King Lear?" I'd go, "Yeah, let's go." I haven't really carried around or thought of anything that I want to do. There's a few people that I want to work with more. There's a guy that Patrick and I were talking about, Craig Zoller. Who is just a prolific filmmaker or writer and filmmaker, and I'd like to do some more things with him. It'll be fun.
Was there ever a point? I mean, I know that you were a producer on Nash Bridges, an executive producer and producer on Nash Bridges. Has there ever been a point where you've wanted to develop material for yourself?
I don't like development.
You don't like development?
No. I've been in development, and for me, it's like it's really making the sausage. Right. That's where the sausage is really made, Yeah. And what I'm really good at is I'm good at doctoring scripts. Of once you put it together, I can say, okay, this is where it's weak, and we need this, and I can write, and I can do those things, and I can co-write. I can co-write with someone. I'm not really good about generating my own material, although I have, but it's not my thing. Guys, I toil over it. Other guys do it like that. Oh,
right, like Zoller.
Yeah, like Zoller.
Who's just pumping it out.
Yeah, Zoller writes a script in 20 days. I would take 20 months. Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, P.T. Anderson takes 4 years to write a script or 5 years to write a script and make a movie as well.
I don't know. You see his movies, you kind of get it. See, sometimes lets the camera rock on one shot for 4.5, 5 minutes, and you go, okay, PT, I think I got that one.
Next one.
Hi, I've been a huge fan for years, so excuse me if I'm a bit nervous.
It's all right.
I was fortunate enough to watch Knives Out at the London Film Festival, and the reaction from the BFI Film Festival, and the reaction from the audience was electrifying. So the question I have, I know you went to the premiere in Toronto. Was the reaction of the audience in line with your expectations based on the chemistry of the cast and crew?
It kind of blew my mind, actually. I had only seen the rough cut that the director was kind enough to let me have a look at and get my notes on, if I had any. I think I had 2. He used one. The other one he threw out, and he was right to throw it out.
That's so cool that he was open to taking your notes and collaborating.
Yeah, I think, when you've been around as long as I have, they kind of they afford you the respect of saying, could you do this or could you do that? I don't know. I mean, I certainly wasn't about to tell Rian Johnson how to make his movie. Let me put it that way.
What are your thoughts? Which is, goes a long way.
Yeah, just what are your thoughts and what do you think? And I think he was, for this kind of film, you're wanting reactions. You want to see how people are reacting, not just the actors that are in it, but also fresh reactions and stuff like that. And I was astounded by the audience reaction in Toronto and in London. It's kind of like one of those things when you make a movie and it pleases people to that degree. I mean, it's kind of like, well, okay, I've done my job. I've been of service, and that's the greatest thing that a human being can do: be of service.
Oh, we have time for one more.
Hi.
Hello.
I've been a fan for forever, but I'm older than you. So.
Well, we could gamble on that.
Right.
But
There's been a lot through your career of mention made of how beautiful you are, all of that. Recently, the Esquire little thing that came out about how you out Don Johnson.
yeah, I don't know what the hell that means.
Do you feel, though, that through the years, that kind of reaction to you has sometimes detracted from people either appreciating how good an actor you are or kept you from getting roles you might have wanted to get?
I think that's very astute and very kind of you to say. Yes, I mean, I'm going to be very honest with you. I think that some directors and some maybe even other actors are either don't know how to look past the physical image, or they just they're so overwhelmed by the physical image that they can't manage it, so they just move on. But others who appreciate the work just look past that. And also, I've also managed to do some makeup things and wear my facial hair differently in order to detract from, also just in service to a character. Just mix it up and change it up and stuff like that. But it's been a challenging, but it's also been a gift.
I'm sure. Yeah. Do you think that is one of the reasons that, and I hesitate to say, and I don't want to say, in your older years?
You can say that.
Older years?
I embrace getting older.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you don't have a fucking choice. So I think embracing it is the right attitude,
Do you think that that's might be that in your older years you're getting some of these newer roles that are coming up, that like directors somehow or writers somehow now know how to embrace you in a different way, in a more quirky quirky's the wrong word, supporting way?
I think that's right. I think that I kind of joke about it. I say I think I'm winning by attrition.
That's the name of the game.
That's the name of the game. Just outlast everybody.
I think most actors would agree with you. Still here, I won.
Hey, exactly. I've been fortunate. I'm very, very lucky, and I've been fortunate to have I do something that I love to do, and I've done it for my whole life, and I've done it sometimes when I've been super poor, and I've done it sometimes when Lady Luck has smiled on me, and I've seen the mountains and I've seen the valleys.
Absolutely. Don, congratulations on Knives Out. It opens this Thanksgiving, right? In theaters everywhere.
Yep.
The great Don Johnson, everybody.
Thank you
Let's hear
very
it.
much. Thank you for having me. Appreciate you, really.